for coming out today. As Limo said, today begins a series of hundreds and thousands of events that will reverberate around the globe like a big Mexican wave, culminating in New York in the biggest ever march about climate change in 14 hours' time. And this global outpouring of hope and expectation reflects a really real sense that finally, maybe, things are moving in the right direction on this issue. Led by the United States and China, real work is underway to give the Earth every possible chance of an ambitious global agreement being struck in Paris next year. But here in Australia, there's more reason to feel pessimistic than hopeful, because over the last 12 months, because of actions in Canberra, we no longer have a cap on our carbon pollution. We no longer have binding targets to reduce our pollution levels by 2020 or 2050. We've withdrawn from the Green Climate Fund, a fund for rich countries to help the poorest nations adapt to climate change. And we've seen the most ruthless and brutal ambush of our renewable energy target, despite Tony Abbott's promise to keep it in place at the last election. Now, the Prime Minister's own hand-picked panel reviewing the renewable energy target found that it had attracted billions of dollars of investment, created thousands of jobs, driven down our carbon pollution and kept power prices low, but still recommended that we abolish it. Well, this event serves as a timely reminder, friends, that the real power in Australia doesn't rest with the Prime Minister or his hand-picked panel. It lies with the Australian people.
Well, what a fantastic crowd here today, and marvellous that we can be linking arms with Ban Ki-moon in New York, with people in Bangladesh, with people in the Pacific Islands, and as we call out to our neighbours in the Pacific Islands to think of Kiribati, to think of Tuvalu, people who are not just talking about climate change, they are living the impacts of climate change right now. And that's why the absolute message for today is action, not words. We don't just need to start a conversation about what we need to do, we need to take action. That's what we need to do. We want no more delays, no more equivocation, no more what might happen at some point. What we do know, climate change is real, it's accelerating, we are on a trajectory for 4 degrees of warming, which is an unlivable planet, and we won't stand for it. That is what we have to convey to Tony Abbott and to leaders around the world. And because Australia is one of the largest polluters in the world, per capita emissions in the world, we have to take a stand here and we have to declare that Australia needs to become net carbon zero by 2050 and no later. Net carbon zero, that's where we should be going.
You, the heroes of our nation, and I don't say that lightly. There's not a great deal of leadership in this country at present. We have a government that is taking more power to itself every day, but at least on this issue is acting utterly without authority. And it is people like you who stand up, who give your time in acts of true leadership to say that this is not good enough, who can actually create some change. I just want to remind you of what's at stake here. This is not some sort of ethereal issue. This is an issue where the science is very, very clear. We know that burning fossil fuels in this country adds about $2.6 billion to our health bill every year. We know that hundreds of people die from the very tiny particles that are emitted when we burn fossil fuels. We know that we can do things better. Australia is leading the world in terms of solar installations. We have 1.3 million of them in this country. The United States only has 500,000. People want change. They are acting to create that change. And we need to send a very strong message to the world that Australia does care about this, that we want better action from our government. This isn't a time for despairing. This is a time for resolute, determined action, because I can tell you that if we don't take action this year, next year and the year after, it may be getting too late to take effective action. We need action now. I don't want to hold you up in the sun any longer, but I do want to thank you very sincerely for being here. Show that leadership. Get out there when you leave this rally and do something that really counts, that really makes a difference for our future, that will give our children a future where our coastal cities aren't drowning, where we're not bleeding billions of dollars in our economy because we didn't address climate action, and where we can grant much better health to future generations. Thank you for being here. Go away empowered.
Surprise, surprise, 2 months before the closure, Alcoa applied to our state government to extend their licence so that they can feed power directly to the grid. And of course, what the National government do, they roll over. Shame on them. So why does Alcoa want this licence in the first place? They're not a coal generator. They want it so that they can flog off this toxic asset to the highest bidder. And who's sniffing around? None other than GDS Suez. The same GDS Suez responsible for the Hazelwood fire. So why Anglesey? Why is Anglesey important today on this day of national action? It's important because this one should be a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer for any party that sits in our parliament and purports to believe in climate science. It's important because we can start to break the stranglehold that the dirty fossil fuel industry has over our communities and over our government. And we can start here in Anglesey. And why should this dinosaur facility be closed? Because, as I mentioned, the smelter it was designed to feed is now closed as well. The grid is already saturated with power. We do not need any more power fed into the grid. And because Anglesey, as many of you would know, is situated in one of the highest fire-prone areas in the state. We do not want another Hazelwood on the Surf Coast. And also because it emits horrific levels of pollution, principally sulphur dioxide, 39 million kilograms of the stuff into the pristine air of the Surf Coast every year.
Thank you, Lino. Not leaving succeeding generations with a financial debt has become the economic clarion call of the last 20 years. Yet, inaction on climate change will leave our children and our children's children with a far, far, far bigger debt. An unpayable debt. A planet where we simply can't be healthy. Whether because of extreme weather events, catastrophic floods, displaced populations, food shortages, lost livelihoods, or destroyed infrastructures. The debt will be a planet with decreasing freshwater supplies, explosive outbreaks of disease, and changes in diseases such as malaria, dengue fever and bacterial meningitis, which are so very sensitive to climate variability. The impact of climate change will be universal. It can't be limited by quarantine. It will be unpredictable, and if we're too late, we simply won't be able to adapt. We won't be able to treat our way out of an unhealthy planet. We won't be able to rely on the miraculous cures or a simple vaccine. Act now or pay later. I'd like to acknowledge your courage and your bravery for being here today, for marching, for acting, and importantly for thinking ahead. We all know prevention is better than cure. As a doctor, I've seen it firsthand in so many cases. Well, responding to climate change is the ultimate test of prevention. Being able to constructively and assertively confront the threats that climate change poses for our health. If we reduce carbon emissions, we directly improve our health. Effective climate control is good health.